Good evening. If there was ever a 2-minute warning, this is it. With kickoff time just 16 hours away, the countdown is on. Super Bowl number 23, where the 49ers and the Bengals face off, is set. While the football players used the eve of Super Bowl Sunday to prepare, so did football fans. Terry Cox joins us now with a look at how Sacramentans are getting set for the big game.
You ever get the feeling that the day of the...
Which, of course, will be here with a lot more about the game coming up in sports. Thank you, Terry. Well, the slowly growing hysteria that surrounds a championship football season stands in sharp contrast to the instantaneous effect of lotto fever driven by rampant greed. Once again, Californians stormed their lotto outlets today, driving the unclaimed jackpot to $40.7 million. Of course, to claim that jackpot, you must have all 6 numbers correct. Odds against that are 14 million to 1. But those odds, driven home by personal experience at losing money, still don't deter those who firmly believe they have the magic formula.
Big time.
Well, if she does have it, it will be big time. Now you're probably thinking, I know how big the jackpot is, just give me the numbers. Well, if you've got your tickets out, or even if you don't, we've got tonight's winning lotto numbers. They are 11, 12, 16, 31, 34, and 37. The bonus number is 17. We'll have the results of tonight's lotto tomorrow night. Of course, not all the news tonight is as fun as the Super Bowl and the lotto. Children must learn that the bizarre tragedy that took place Tuesday at Stockton's Cleveland Elementary School is an isolated incident, and that most people do good things. Cleveland Principal Patricia Busher made those remarks today as 200 people gathered in Stockton at the Central Methodist Church for a memorial service for the 5 children gunned down Tuesday. State Senator John Garamendi told the victims' families, largely Southeast Asian refugees, that tragedy has followed them. Governor George Deukmejian will speak at a memorial service Monday at Stockton Civic Auditorium. Those attending are being asked to follow the Southeast Asian tradition of wearing black and white ribbons. Police are on the lookout tonight for the man who allegedly shot and killed another man at a deli on 20th Street in Sacramento last night. Witnesses at Vallejo's Mexican Deli say the murder looked like an execution. Apparently, the assailant walked into the restaurant and shot a young Hispanic man in the head with a semi-automatic pistol and then left. The suspect is reportedly a 24-year-old Hispanic man, 5'10", weighing 175 pounds. He was last seen driving a 1984 root beer brown Olds Cutlass. The sexual assault of a 12-year-old Weimar girl may be linked to at least 2 other attacks. The composite drawing of the man who abducted the young girl near the Weimar Grammar School Thursday was released today by the Placer County Sheriff's Office. About an hour and a half before the assault, a man matching the suspect's description tried to use a gas credit card stolen from a Fresno rape victim. He was buying gas for a car stolen from a Modesto woman who was raped January 10th. The Sheriff's Department is asking anyone with any information about the attack to call them at 823-4321. Fat Albert may be a lovable character in the repertoire of Bill Cosby, but in truth, it's no fun being the fat kid. And worse, it's unhealthy. Today in Sacramento, an effort to help children fighting obesity, Kimberly Marquez fills us in next. But first, the sky was an ugly brown, but the temperatures were pleasantly warm today. After a high of 62 degrees, here are our current conditions. Eating ice cream and sugar-coated cereal is all part of being a kid for most of us. But doctors are now saying that too much of the sweet stuff can do a lot more than just spoil your dinner. A conference to head off obesity was held in Mercy General Hospital today, and as Kimberly Marquez reports, staying thin as an adult has a lot to do with being a thin kid.
For the 10 o'clock news.
Over 200 people were arrested today in Sunnyvale as they attempted to blockade an abortion clinic. Tomorrow marks the 16th anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision to legalize abortion. The High Court's controversial decision to review the abortion issue sparked demonstrations across the country this weekend. Anti-abortionists feel President Bush will bring the compassion of the nation to their cause.
Also children that are being killed.
Those in favor of a woman's right to an abortion are afraid women facing unwanted pregnancies will place their own health at risk.
So they attempt to self-abort with coat hangers, etc.
Over 400 protesters were arrested nationwide today. Besides shelter, some of Sacramento's homeless got a bus tour of the city tonight. Those who arrived at the National Guard Armory for the night instead boarded buses for McClellan Air Force Base. The Armory is open these cold winter nights to provide shelter, but the National Guard needs it this weekend for exercises. The Salvation Army is busing those who come by to a temporary shelter. About 125 people take advantage of the free shelter each night. 2 of the NBA's hottest teams met tonight. Would you believe they're the Kings and the Warriors? That's not just homeboy hype either. The battle for Northern California basketball supremacy is on, and Rich Miller is up next with the highlights. But first, it was a pleasant day for the central part of the country, but bitter cold invaded the Northeast and snow hit the Pacific Northwest. The really bad news is a cold front moving south through Florida could very well bring rain to the Super Bowl. Utah and Idaho joined us in developing areas of dense fog. Forget the rest of the NBA. I was ready to claim the Kings as champions of California after being the Lakers and Clippers. All that stood between them and that title was the Warriors,
who are probably the best team in California right now.
I guess they may have proved that.
Either feast or famine for the Kings lately. The Kings have been hot at home, but I think it will be a close game. But I think, as everybody else thinks, the Niners seem to have a stronger team.
So you think he's going to lose his $165,000 because he probably gave 7 points.
With the points, yeah, probably.
Well,
I don't have that much to throw around.
Bring your wallet, I guess. Thanks. We're going to break here for 3 minutes of commercials, and when we come back, we'll show you some commercials. But these aren't just any commercials, they're award winners. We'll show you why next. But first, look out for some fog tonight. The Weather Service says it will develop in spots, but in the morning it will burn away to partly cloudy skies and another day of nice temperatures. The high in downtown Sacramento expected to be 55 degrees. Everyone knows the advertisement that is a real winner is the one that sells, but some score well for creativity, and Jeff Block has a look tonight at some of those.
In Chicago.
Well, as it has been pointed out to me, it is already Super Sunday in Miami, and of course we'll be back here tomorrow night at 10 o'clock with all the news of what happens in the game and in Sacramento and all throughout Northern California. Thanks for joining us tonight, though. There's nothing quite like the first day on a new job. Just ask George Bush. He's got one. That story tops USA Tonight with Marvin Scott.
Latest details, Scott.
Lorraine and Ted, I'm standing in front of what is a 6-room boarding house on F Street just north of downtown Sacramento. In the back part of the side yard, a tent has been erected. That's a part of the yard where earlier today they found the human remains. That tent will allow them to continue digging in the morning, even if it does start to rain, as many people expect it to. There have been no arrests in this case, so detectives do have some hunches. And if the truth turns out to be anything like some of those detectives feel it is, this whole story will sound very much like an Agatha Christie novel. On parole from federal charges related to poisoning, 59-year-old Dorothea Puentes is a suspect in the case. Police brought her back to the scene this afternoon after questioning her at the police station. While cooperative, police say she insists she knows nothing about the human remains in the side yard of the apartment building she manages. Police say they had solid leads before arriving this morning and receiving permission to dig. They knew who they were looking for, but were surprised by the human leg and skeletal foot inside a shoe that they found.
But we don't think that the body that we have partially exhumed is the body that we were looking for.
Police are wondering if that means there may be more than one body buried here. Neighbors are wondering why they never noticed anything.
Never, any indication. I can't believe it. Right next door to my house.
She'd be nice and all of a sudden start yelling and screaming. And she'd always give us things. And so, like, when my roommate left, she gave a bottle of wine to him, saying, yeah, you've been nice neighbors. So, kind of a strange cookie in a way. Investigators readily admit the whole episode is still thick with mystery, especially the question of a motive.
We are under the impression that this might be for monetary gain. Getting checks, and the person's no longer, cashing checks. The person's that's no longer in existence.
You might be wondering how such a system might work. Just for instance, Ted and Lorraine, if somehow, for some reason, you were receiving a Social Security check, it's all right for you to designate me as the payee for that check. And then, of course, if I could continue to get those checks after killing you, then no one knew that you were dead, then I just get those checks forever. But I want to repeat that there have been no arrests in this case so far, but there apparently will be a lot of digging to come. The big money brings them out of the woodwork. Lined up 30 deep tonight at Stewart's Liquors in Sacramento to get their chance at more than $33 million. If someone does win tonight, they'll have some tough decisions to make. Specifically, how to spend all that money. A Rolls-Royce isn't a bad place to start. It certainly says you've arrived when you arrive, and for good reason.
This car in particular has a suggested retail price of $138,500.
You say that's just the middle of the line?
That's the middle of the line. You can go up from here to the Corniche convertible, which runs just a shade under $200,000.
Travel is the most common response when lotto winners are asked what they'll do with their money. How about a $32,000 round-the-world trip on a private jet, or a gorilla safari for only $5,500? But for something really out of this world, you can reserve now for a space flight.
They estimate it will go in the mid-1990s. They're targeting for 1992, actually. And the price per person is $52,000.
Of course, it is also possible that diamonds could be a new millionaire's best friend.
Is a diamond platinum tennis necklace, 12.5 carats total weight. The piece runs $33,500. It is a beautiful, simple piece of jewelry.
All you have to do to afford all this is win. Oh, the odds on that are 1 in 14 million. Scott McDonald for the 10 o'clock news.
Keep on coming. That's good.
The chain gang got an early start today. It was only just outside of Placerville that drivers were forced from the warmth of their cars to do battle with the linked attraction. In this high-tech age, little has been done to improve chains, and today they inflicted their misery at just 1,800 feet.
Yeah, you get old real quick with this kind of deal, especially up there when it gets real cold.
But this low snow was a pleasant surprise for others. The town of Placerville hasn't had snow in years, and today's light dusting brought a wintry look that some locals wanted to capture for posterity.
It's kind of funny to watch everybody in it. They're not used to it, so they slip and slide around a little bit, but I think everybody's in the spirit, and it's nice that it came for the holidays.
Driving through Placerville's snowy streets might have been a nice change, but for those headed to the mountains, it meant the usual delays, in many instances caused by people who just don't seem to listen.
You had several today without chains, and they drive too fast for a lot of it for the conditions. And if they would just slow down, they get there a lot quicker.
Travelers were stalled by 6 solo accidents and 1 pileup involving 8 cars. Fortunately, no one was seriously hurt. So all the snow can mean a miserable time for holiday travelers, but as one chain installer told me, for his family, lousy road conditions add up to a nicer Christmas. Scott McDonald for the 10 o'clock news.